The Okanagan appears to have a superabundance of water, but looks can be deceiving, especially to newcomers.
You have many people who come from elsewhere, and most of them are Canadians who've grown up with the myth of limitless water abundance where they live. So they think that's a birthright, and when they see lakes like this, it might be hard for them to imagine water scarcity as an issue.
The valley is one of the most arid regions in Canada. It also has a large agricultural industry and a growing population base. It sounds like a recipe for ongoing water shortages.
The reality is it's not so much the water that we see behind us that matters, but the amount of water that comes every year in the form of snow and rain.
Jetel says the water that comes down from the mountains and creeks and streams is what the Okanagan gets to spend every year. This year the snowpack is well below average in most of the Okanagan, so there could be widespread water shortages.
If I were living in this area, the greatest fear I would have would be deep and persistent drought.
Water shortages affect everyone, especially agriculture. If it wasn't for irrigation, which uses a lot of water, the Okanagan would look very different than it does today.
And the history of this valley, turning it green, it needs a lot of water to do that. So, we just have to manage it well.
Today, the Okanagan Basin Water Board and UBCO sponsored a public forum on water issues in the Okanagan. The event, held in conjunction with the United Nations World Water Day, is designed to share ideas on how to preserve the region's water quality.
I think the water quality overall is exceptionally good. We've come a long way from the pea green soup that we had in 1973-74.
The experts say the Okanagan should improve its conservation efforts and learn from water management mistakes and successes from other parts of the world. In Kelowna, Barry McDivitt, CHBC News. It took 3 years and $2 million to complete a study into the Okanagan's water supply.
This study is going to show us how much water we have, how much we're using today, and hopefully it's going to show us how much we're going to need in the future.
It's been one of the most comprehensive studies into the valley's water resources in decades.
It's unique by Okanagan standards, but really by Canadian standards. I think that there's never been a study in recent years that's been as comprehensive as this.
Government researchers were able to develop a new web-based computer program designed to make it easier to predict how water supplies may be affected by future population growth and climate change.
Water supply is probably the most limiting resource in the Okanagan for whether it's agriculture expansion or human settlement or industry. We need water, and we need to do a better job of using the water that we have today.
People are going to have to change some of their habits. The Okanagan is arid, with less fresh water per person than anywhere else in Canada, and yet the average Okanagan resident uses twice as much water as the national average.
That's a scary figure. 24% of domestic use water is being used outside. That's lawns, gardens, shrubs, washing cars and things like that. That's probably not going to be allowed in the future.
Most of the study's findings won't come as a surprise to long-time residents of the Okanagan. It predicts that water shortages are probably inevitable and may become worse.
Yes, they are. We've always had water shortages in the Okanagan, and that we always will have water shortages in the Okanagan. The challenge is, how can we protect the economy and our quality of life while we are having these water shortages?
The Okanagan Basin Water Board says the study is further proof that people are going to have to stop using so much water. In Kelowna, Barry McDivitt, CHBC News.